So cons are back. How exciting. We get to finally see our friends don our suits, or not if you don't have one, and get back to normal. Or do we? What is normal for a con in 2021? Are there new challenges after 2020's climate, or are there some we have yet to finally confront? Let's get into that. Megaplex 2021. I saw this in my inbox constantly as something you wanted me to talk about. I made the conscious decision to sit out the 2021 con season due to being immunocompromised. I didn't expect to hear of cons aside from happy pictures and excited tweets about dances and meetups. But this was different. You were angry. You wanted someone to speak out. And I listened. But I also know all too well how traumatizing it can be to see your own trauma played for laughs, used to manipulate, or just monetized for profit. And I really didn't want to do that. Most would provide a content or trigger warning here. Instead, I'd like to offer a promise of authenticity. I've been in communication with one of the victims of this incident, and what you are hearing now has been vetted by them to ensure how I cover this incident is respectful, appropriate, and will not re-traumatize victims. I am not going to say their name, as they have asked not to be named, but if you happen to know who it is, you can see our tweet correspondences. I am being very careful with it. To understand why we need to discuss con safety and how we need to take it more seriously, we need to discuss what happened and how it was handled. However, to spare those victims, who I will not name out of respect again, we will be speaking in the abstract to reduce harm. Whilst many partygoers were running around in furry euphoria, an incident was brewing behind the scenes of the con. An attendee with a history of harm on the public record was roaming the con basically scot-free. This was brought to con staff via Telegram in tweet threads that can very easily be found if you search for them. Nothing was done. It wasn't long before the attendee in question went on to inflict harm on others, and little to no repercussions were brought against them, to my knowledge. Also to my knowledge, and from what I've seen, this person was not brought before law enforcement, and con staff essentially washed their hands of guilt for the incident, indicating that they could do nothing to remove them. In short, someone predatory got into the con, caused harm, and suffered no repercussions. How on earth did we get here? Okay, so this section is unscripted. The former was scripted out of respect for the person involved. This part, however, is a larger discussion on con safety and will not involve their exact story. So I'm gonna go off the cuff and I'm gonna be really, really angry. Forewarning. Okay, so many cons that build themselves as family-friendly events or family-safe events have a very interesting history with who they do and do not ban and all of the specifics of it. Okay, so moving on from that, I have been to 3 cons total in my entire existence of being a furry. Anthrocon, Midwest Fur Fest, and Furry Week in Atlanta. That's it. So my con experiences are pretty limited. Most of the reason why I didn't go to a shit ton of cons is because I frankly could not afford to do that. However, one of the reasons I'm actually quite glad I have decided to sit out the 2021 season is one of the big years I had is, okay, we've had almost an entire year to figure this shit out. No cons are happening. There's no real, well, I mean, there's probably planning for 2022, but y'all have had a really long time to think about shit. And whilst you were thinking about shit, we have seen furry Twitter become increasingly vocal about predators, people who mean to do harm, people who have an actual public record on them, etc., etc. And some cons I've seen, like, take this in stride, are Denver actually holding people accountable for their vaccination status, allowing people to use cards, photocopies of cards, or if you have an app that your state offers that actually checks your information against their database and can verify that you have been vaccinated and gives you a digital card, great. That is fantastic. I do, however, understand that Megaplex is in Florida. One of those states that just has a reputation that speaks for itself. Now, this is nothing against Megaplex directly, because I've never gone, so I don't know. And I have several fellow colleagues, well, I guess peers is the correct term, who have gone. And, as far as I know, they had a great time. However, it's always bothered me that certain things will get you banned from a con, but certain things will not. Having a public record of harming children, other people, animals, it doesn't seem like that's taken as seriously as, say, dropping the N-word or being openly homophobic. I'm not saying that those things should not be taken seriously. I'm saying we should take both things very seriously. Someone who yells the N-word multiple times should be banned. And someone who has a history of harming children or others should also be banned. Might I remind you, cons, you are technically a private event. And while I understand legally you might be terrified of getting sued by a con attendee that was denied entry because, I don't know, they've got like a criminal record or some shit, I feel like furries would more than happily band together to help you fight that. We have lawyers in this fandom, we have literal rocket scientists, and we have a ton of people who are sick of this shit. So if it came down to it where you needed every single member of the fandom to throw down $10 so you could fight a lawsuit in court because you didn't want a predator at your con, I feel like we'd all kind of be okay with that. I mean, we do wear these costumes that can cost like thousands of dollars. I feel like if you were like, no, we don't want this predator at our family-friendly event, the community would come together in the case of a lawsuit. But what's interesting is I don't know a ton of people on con staff, but I have heard the rumor. I have heard the rumors about certain members of con staff being really buddy-buddy with some of these people or having a history themselves. Now, I would like to address one thing that might be an elephant in the room for some of you, which is how the offender registry works. Now, in some cases, it can be very biased and wonky and strange in the way it's laid out. I know there are sometimes incidences that put you on that list that are kind of bullshit. However, in the spirit of fairness and the fact that you have children at this con and potentially victims of prior trauma, which this would, make a lot worse, I fully understand y'all like money and you need money to run and you also need money for your charities. But you've had so much time to think about this. You've been stuck at home, quarantined, had a lot of time to run the old noggin. Did you not think it would be pertinent to maybe update some of the con rules or get a little stricter? Because it seems like some of the cons took this shit seriously. Granted, they weren't in a historically very problematic state, but it seems like there was a lot of shit taken more seriously at some of the other cons we've seen. Of the posts at Denver, I have not seen any of this shit. Granted, I don't go on Twitter much, so maybe I missed it. But all I have seen from that con is a lot of flexibility in how vaccination status is processed and a lot of professionalism in the way security is handled. What I saw from this is either you were too chicken shit to face a problem and handle it professionally, or maybe you were too buddy-buddy with the person involved, or maybe they just donated a lot of money and you had to use kid gloves to handle the situation because they gave you a lot of money. Stop it. I get it. I'm a Twitch streamer. I make crap videos like this on YouTube. I am living on kind of a thread right now. I made a very big financial decision for my birthday and I'm very happy with that decision. I saved it for months, but I'm not gonna lie, if I had known what was coming this year, I probably would have held off and saved that money. But I get it. Money talks really loudly in the furry fandom, and it especially talks extremely loudly for con. I just have to wonder how much that money is worth pocketing when the person giving it is someone who is going to inflict harm on others, or you have a reason to suspect they will inflict harm on others, or when attendees of your own goddamn con tell you up front before any incidences occur that this person is liable to cause harm. Why were they allowed to stay? Why were they allowed to stay? Why weren't they handled? Was law enforcement even called when these incidences occurred? I assume it was reported to con ops. I mean, that seems like the thing that would happen. Did you bother handling this professionally at all? Because as a former victim myself from way back, one of the biggest things that I look for in communities that I feel safe in is accountability, professionalism, and people actually giving a shit. And it seems like you guys didn't. So I guess the question I have for Megaplex and other cons is, how much is that predator money really worth to you? Is it worth people getting harmed at your events? Because it sure seems like it. And that's just not acceptable. And I would wager that as we go into 2022, a lot of other furries like me are going to start really thinking about where we put our dollars when we go to cons. And if you're a con that is totally okay with taking money from predators and people who would tend to cause harm, you might not be seeing my money ever, or if I've gone to you before, ever again. Think about that. And if you're a con attending furry that goes to every single con, start actually paying attention to how things are handled, and start paying attention to which cons don't take it seriously. Maybe those aren't the cons you should be putting your money towards. Maybe you should save a little extra for yourself so you can splurge at a con that actually gives a shit. Just a food for thought. Doodles.
Okay, so I covered a bunch of stuff, and I also realized that there's one thing I did not mention in this, and that is the other video that was made about this situation. I am not going to name that YouTuber. I think they've suffered enough. However, I do want to give my perspective on some of the things they did right, some of the things they did wrong, and what YouTubers can learn from that moving forward. So, what did they do right? Well, they covered an important topic about a situation at a con. That's it. In the way they covered it, there are definitely things that could have been done better. In my situation, I reached out to one of the victims to ensure that the way I was covering it was not in a way that would trigger trauma, and that it was respectful, and, didn't name them if they weren't comfortable, didn't go into specifics if they weren't comfortable. If you're covering an important news topic that includes information about someone's trauma, do try to reach out to them if you can, or, like I did, make a tweet calling for anyone that was victimized at this incident to weigh in, because I never, ever want to make a video that reignites trauma. I had trauma myself. I would feel absolutely horrible if I saw my trauma being monetized for views. On the subject of monetized for views, it is also important to remember that YouTube tends to favor monetized videos. If you're trying to get something very important out, monetizing it will kind of help it play better in the algorithm. It'll be recommended more. So I do understand that choice. Do I think it was the right choice with the video provided? No. This video, for your information, is monetized. Why? Because I mention the incident briefly, succinctly, and I do not bring anyone's personal information, specifics, or anything into it. The purpose of this video was to broach the topic of the incident and then move on into a greater discussion regarding con safety. And I believe most of this video is my discussion of con safety and how I think it should change. Therefore, I do not feel like I am monetizing someone's trauma. I also have to pay bills. So, other YouTuber, if you are watching this, I understand what happened. It happens all too often, and it's a hole that I have almost fallen into a lot. So listen to me very clearly. If you ever want to cover a topic that involves trauma again, please reach out to victims first when and where you can to see if you can cover it in a way that is not re-traumatizing. Don't include names if the person has made it clear that they do not want their name shown. And don't clickbait it if it regards something very, very sensitive. That's just not ever going to work in your favor. You might get views, but you will not get a positive reception. Also, there is a hole that we all fall into when we are trying to start out and become big YouTubers. We get motivated by views, growth, we get very tunnel visioned in, I have to go, 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 go. And sometimes it leaves some of our reasoning on the side. So when you're making these videos, don't rush. Take the time to look through everything, and if something in your script or your video or your audio feels wrong, step back, reevaluate it, and see if you need to make a change to it. Please never feel like you're at the mercy of the algorithm and you have to go, 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 upload, 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 because if what you upload is damaging, in the end you're just going to be taking it off your channel, and that's a huge waste of time and effort from all that editing to have to pull it down. Additionally, if you are going to be reporting on current events, I know that sometimes you have a tight window for it to be relevant. But like I said, I took a week off before even scripting this, sending it to one of the victims to look over, and getting this out. Sometimes you don't want to be the first person to make a video. It's going to make you a target. So if your video would benefit from a few nights sleep and thinking it over and discussing your script with victims, do it. The video that comes out of it will be more respectful, more approachable, and just frankly, a much better piece of work. And if you want to monetize it so that it can get more views, try to make some part of that video more of your personal opinion and discussion and a larger topic like I have. I'm not saying make my video because I've already done that, but try to make something about your video unique so that the value your viewers are getting is your input in your story. Please do not monetize other people's trauma by just rehashing that trauma for views. It's the biggest mistake you can make, and it's very tempting given how many YouTubers we know out there just regurgitate trauma for views. Don't be like one of them. They might get great views, their AdSense might pay their bills, but it will start to wear on you and it will start to really break you down and make this industry painful. That's all I had to say on that. I just figured I should address the situation since my video is coming out after it has all happened, but I hold no ill will towards that creator because I believe in my heart of hearts that they were caught in the old cat and mouse game of get the video out while it's still relevant and just didn't do all the right checks and skipped a few steps on the vetting process and probably should have talked to a few victims before it was out. But I am not that YouTuber, so I will never really know, but that's what I think happened. And I know that has happened to me before, and I have had to stop myself from hitting upload because I know what I'm putting out there is a product of that symptom. So I wish you the best. I really hope you can learn from this and grow. And I hope any victims that were involved in this are safe, sound, and on the journey to recovery, because I know how hard that is. So, yep. Thank you for watching.